Another day. It is the 27th of August in this year, 2021. Welcome from GMU Friday Special. Ruben Impima and the team just right there on their special Friday. Now welcome. As we also conclude the week, we get to our Pan-African Friday. And of course, today, the Pan-African Friday team, Mututa James in studios, welcome.
Asante.
And I call Mande Amazima Karibu.
Asante.
Very good.
Yeah.
And of course, joining us in studios today is Ndugu Nathan Gahungu from the Ecological Party of Uganda, EPU. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
You showed up in the previous elections. You didn't field a candidate for the presidency, but you had quite, I think, a number for parliament,
Yes.
even when nobody went through. But I think it was a good gesture that you had to bring a few.
I was told the president didn't pick the forms.
The Ecological Party president, Barry. Isn't it Barry, or Barry is a different one?
Yes, that's Mr. Charles Barre, but actually it was, we agreed that
You don't pick.
we don't pick, but we support the incumbent president. The reason being that when we looked through the manifesto of the NRM,
Even yours couldn't match.
we felt, no,
I like that.
no, we felt that
It was covering what you tell the
yes,
what you
it's
tell
better we
Ugandans.
work with the existing government so that we promote democracy, peace, and also security, which are very key, especially
Alhamdulillah.
in EPU. Yes.
So, how is operating a political party in this country? How easy is it to operate and run a political party, even when you do not have a candidate in parliament or anywhere, but just making a party live in this country? How plausible is it?
Definitely, running a political party which is not represented in the parliament is not easy. First of all, you don't have funding, and secondly, here the principles governing the parties actually are not normally followed by the party members. They belong to many parties. You find you have members of the Ecological Party, but at the same time they are in other parties. So they cannot contribute effectively to the party growth. Therefore, it's not really an easy work to managing a political party in Uganda. Yes.
So where do you get the resources to actually do the other bits of it? For example, the returns, filing returns to Electoral Commission and doing all these things. Where do you get the few resources to keep yourselves going?
You see, Ecological Party of Uganda is a party which is very unique. It's not like many other parties. And for that uniqueness, it makes us able to attract a few resources from the donors. For instance, last year we had projects from some countries like Denmark. It was supporting something on climate change and also on reforms, democratic reforms, and also on constitutional reforms, especially where we had been given an opportunity to contribute towards the special electoral reforms. So we got some small money, but we also have those people who are interested in the growth of those parties which have unique principles. For example, for us, we have the principle of environmentalism, non-violence, participatory democracy, and respect for diversity. These are principles which are not so common in other parties. For example, if you look at our party, the national party now, which is in the government, the National Resistance Movement, to what extent do they promote environmentalism? To what extent do they respect for diversity? So you see, ours is a unique party. Yes.
Okay.
So for that matter, we have some people who are interested in our principles.
How many members do you have?
We have over 10,000 members who are registered. But like any other party, we have other members who are not registered.
Or you have supporters? Because I think many parties have supporters and not members necessarily.
I think I said for the situation of Uganda, we have royal members and we
about
also
10,000?
have supporters. But those ones who have said we shall be within this party and pay a small membership fee, we have 10,017 members.
Oh, that's a good number. You're very accurate. 10,017. Well, I think that's a good that's a good beginning for a political party. Ndugu Mtuta, very briefly on what my brother Nathan here says before I get into the democracy of Southern Africa.
Apparently, that is my problem.
And how should it be a problem?
It's my problem because the political systems in Africa, I'm not talking about the Ecological Party, I'm talking about the whole political setup when it comes to democratization. Now that we are talking about democratization in the southern part of Africa, is that why we start political parties, I think there must be a threshold. And last time, like we were discussing, what informs the establishment of a political party? And that once a political party is formed for specific, of course it has to have specific goals to achieve. How do we intend to achieve those goals? Are our goals demand driven, or it is a style? And in most cases we have had, like you also will realize when you are looking at the southern part of Africa, the issue of the incumbency. People are complaining that we are not being given freedom to move. We have not been given resources to move. We have not been given the time to move. But when you are coming in, what did you have? What did you come with? Maybe the time could have been a problem, but where did you come from that you need time now? So I think, like we said, in Africa, we have not a very long way to go because we have actually moved. But what we need is that to have these systems that are demand-driven. I was listening to this lady I like, and I think one of these days we shall host her here, Ambassador Arkan. When she says that in most cases what Africans are thinking is that we have a bad president. That's what they will be thinking. The person in power, the political party in power is a bad one because of ABCD. But what happens that after you have removed the same person and put in another person, the same things then happen. Then where is the problem? The problem is then it's not the individual, it's not the political system, but the system generally, in which the mechanism of the engineering, of the political engineering that is involved in creating the presidency, the incumbency, is normally the problem. Okay. So we can have a political party today, another one tomorrow, but once the engineering system is not the mechanics, the mechanism is not fixed, we still will have the same results every other time. Okay.
Well, Akol, in just 2 minutes, then we get to the issues of Southern Africa.
Well, I just say that the common law is multiple of formation of a political party is ascending to power. It's a vehicle through which politicians can actually access power. And that power can always be got through winning an outright election, like we see. Inaugural has done it, Chama cha Mapinduzi, ANC. But also, you can also ascend to power through alliances. Like we see what happens in Kenya, you see the global alliances coming together to win. And others can also ascend to power through supporting a winning team. For example, you know, I've always given an example of the founding parties in Africa. KANU, after losing elections in 2002, has always been creating, supporting a winning party, and through that they've always been in government since that time. In Zambia, the same thing, UNIP. They supported PF Patriotic Front during the times of Michael Sata, and that's how they bounced back to government. So, like, I think so. So that is the bottom line. That if you're a political party, the bottom line is to ascend to power. Now, how you ascend to power is how you play your cards. In Uganda, we have UPC. After losing in 1985. They are now back in the government through supporting NRM. They have ministers. So that is
and that's what ecological party was also maybe looking at, looking for. Yes. They're saying yes. When we look at our manifesto, it's not any different from NRM actually represents our thoughts. So if NRM gets there, then we count ourselves. We can be there. In a way. Well, away from all that, now let's get to our discussion this morning of the democracy in Southern Africa, and of course, we very much want to look at majorly the country called Zambia. They went in an election about 2 weeks ago. We were here, talked about them, discussed them. Actually, when we were getting the elections, and we had an opportunity to speak to some people in Zambia. Days later, thereafter, of course, the Zambia Electoral Commission declared President Hichilema as the president-elect, who, of course, took oath of office, and he's now the president of that country for the next 5 years until anything happens with Zambia or in Zambia. We expect to get online on Zoom Ndugu Reverend Banda, the immediate former Secretary General of the UNIP party that you just talked about here. He will come in and to also just paint for us a picture of what is happening there. But let's just get to the issues in Zambia. Let me start with you, Ndugu Gahungu. What lessons do you first and foremost, as a political party, ecological party, what lessons have you picked or have you learned from the democracy of Southern Africa? Now, not necessarily Zambia, but Southern Africa as a bloc.
First of all, we all need to learn that our communities or our societies are still fragile. They are growing up. Both the voters, the institutions of government, they are all still growing up in Africa. So we need confidence building. Who are the stakeholders when it comes to politics? The sitting president is one of the strongest key stakeholders when it comes to transitioning and also democracy. So if you look at countries like Zambia, you look at Tanzania, you look at even other countries like Kenya, the sitting president played a very big role in ensuring that there is smooth transition. Now, what happens actually in some countries, more so like Uganda, when there is a current president or a sitting president, he has a lot of opposition, which is more of fighting the president. So this makes them actually fear to give power to the opponents. For instance, I normally wonder what would have happened if, let's say, the UPC President Dr. Promilton Robote was to hand over maybe power to UPM by then, or what I could have called the NRM when they were still in the bush. So what we need is to understand that we have to work very well with the with the sitting presidents so that we are able to get a good transition. So what happened in Zambia, we all know that President Kenneth Kaunda played a very big role by accepting the outcomes of the elections. Therefore, we have to understand, we have to learn that for us to progress, for us to move further, we have to work hand in hand with the current presidents who are in power. I think you can see that now UPC, the UPC party, in fact, I cherish them. I feel that they are doing the right thing to first work with the government and they hear any suspicion. Then with time, if NRM wants to hand over power to UPC, they will be extremely confident that actually we reconciled, we are moving on. Therefore, for example, for the case of Uganda, I highly believe that the opposition have contributed much for the stay in the power of President Yoweri Museveni.
Or the NRM.
Because, yes, of NRM and also President Yoweri Museveni. Because when you threaten to take a sitting president to ICC, to put him in prison, and yet he's the one who almost has the power. Because as I said, in our countries, our institutions are still fragile, and the executive still plays a very big role in determining which institution has power. Therefore, to me, I think that in Zambia, what we learn is that we have to work together, respect each other, we remove suspicion, we promote non-violence, we promote participatory democracy, we respect diversity, and all other key issues that lead to peace building. Otherwise, if we don't do that, we shall remain with situations where we shall have leadership that is considered dictatorial, actually when even the leaders themselves, they are faced with questions of transition.
But when you get to Zambia, for example, as a country, you notice that from Baba wa Taifa, Kenneth Kaunda, Dr. Keke, to Frederick Chiluba, you saw the animosity that came thereafter. When Frederick Chiluba came into power, he ascended to power, there was again running, the chasing now of all the issues that came about, and starting to think that maybe even Mzee Kaunda was not even Zambian, and quite a number of things that came thereafter. When Chiluba exited, you know, the ones that came after Chiluba, we're also now again looking at Chiluba as a very corrupt man and also trying to chase him and doing all these things. We now see a transfer of power from Edgar Chagwa Lungu now to Hichilema. Edgar, the incumbent at that time, organized an election and he started crying foul. Why? Because you look at the incentives. We do not have incentives for our former presidents. That a president can actually say, I'm holding an election, but just in case I lose this election, then I will stay here. There will be this for me, there will be that, there will be that, as a former president. But everybody gets worried about what the future should be like, what the future will look like when they're not in power. Don't you think that these are some of the issues here that maybe cause the transfer of power in our governments to have lots of hitches and hiccups?
Yeah, of course, you are right. But as I've said, the moment you have a strong political foundation from the start, just to look at Kenneth Kaunda, he became president in 1960, I think it was 1964, and he exited in 1991. He led Zambia for 27 years. Under his leadership, he had now sensed that he had, in fact, he discovered that he had built a base for democracy. He transferred power peacefully. Other presidents who came in, of course, if you look at Chiluba, he tried to do a lot of things, even to criminalize President Kenneth Kaunda. But he failed. Why? Because the first president who had been given a chance to lead for some reasonable time had built a very strong political base. Now, I hear Edgar Lungu, when he lost, he wanted to, he actually said that the system, that electoral environment was unfair to him. But later on, because of the foundation that had been created by the first president, Kenneth Kaunda, and the trust that had been built, he was able to recall that if I hand over power peacefully, indeed, I will instead live peacefully in my country. And this has actually saved a lot of, it has saved the situation, especially in Zambia, because I hear some people had started to go as far as Zimbabwe to get exile, but as soon as they resolved the matter and they all agreed that indeed we shall respect you as a former president and maybe you also get your privileges, then indeed Zambia is now stable. Now, what lesson do we learn here? One, we learn the lesson that the sitting president is very important, but also the incoming president is important. And also, we agree that dialogue is very important at every level. Once dialogue is not there, there is no peace. For example, in the case of Zambia, there were a lot of dialogue. There were underlying things that were actually going to affect their transition, but there was one key component. Here, many groups started a process of dialogue, a process of peace building, and indeed, President Edgar Lungu became confident that once dialogue, the results of dialogue are actually followed, then they are likely to reach at a compromise that will make them stable as a nation.
Okay.
So I think we have to learn that even when we are going in democracy elections, dialogue is important. Now, I want to come back to Uganda. I was here in elections. I saw that one as a missing link.
Which elections are you talking about?
I mean the last elections, both parliamentary and presidential.
Okay.
You see,
the January 2021 elections?
Yes.
Okay.
You ask yourself, was there a dialogue process when elections were going on? Was there talk between DP, UPC, NUP, Ecological Party? It wasn't there. Even at the parliamentary level, nothing. So that should be one of the roles of Electoral Commission in any country, that even as you are having elections, you are promoting dialogue. Because as I said, and I want to insist, our institutions are still young. We copy democracy from other countries, but we must know that we have unique societies. The level of political growth is still fragile, actually still small. So we have to know that we have to promote unique principles while we are transitioning, while we are in elections, while we are participating in democracy. Yeah.
Okay, Ndugu Akol, let's get to Southern Africa. We saw the transfer of power, of course, from Edgar Chagwa Lungu, who came in to complete Michael Sata's term. Then, of course, he got his own term. He wanted to ask for another term, and the Zambians said, no, this time we're giving it to a man who had actually tried several times, and say, now we're passing it over to Hichilema. Hichilema is now the man in there, and of course, I read the tweet from Edgar Chagwa Lungu saying, after 7 years, well, the time has come for me to walk out of State House, to leave it to different occupants now. Let me go and get back to another life outside the State House precincts. What we learned from many people look at Southern Africa as Africa's anchor nations in as far as democracy is concerned, and more so this country called Zambia. Are there any things that we think the rest of Africa can actually pick from them, learn from them, and are they doing only right things, or even with the few good things they're doing, they also have their own challenges here and there?
Well, I just have to say that at every point of crisis, a nation can either rise or actually be destroyed completely. So at the moment of crisis, because the Zambian election was actually a two-horse race, it was neck to neck, the stakes were so high, and everybody was like, well, let's pray for the nation. Yes, and so every other time a country or a community is at that level, it is either heading to destruction or it comes out stronger. And now in the case of Zambia, they came out stronger, and that is why the rest of Africa should learn from Zambia. Now, what are the things that really the rest of Africa need to learn from Zambia? In the first place, I say kudos to the Electoral Commission of Zambia. Because you see how the Electoral Commission of Zambia, even if really you wanted to petition, even if you are not satisfied, you'd actually end up, because they announced the results constituency by constituency. Now, I don't see that you're not going to say that they have rigged you out. Secondly, by the time they even announced those results constituency by constituency, the constituent agents of all parties had to verify that, yes, these are the results we have. So it was totally hard for anybody to start saying that things don't reflect. That is number one. Now, the second thing that we also have to learn from, actually, I think the opposition in Africa has a lot to learn from the opposition in Zambia. And you want to quote these particular words. When Hakainde Hichilema was asked that Edgar Lungu has imprisoned you more than 50 times. Now, if you are elected, are you going to imprison him? He said, no. That actually the people of Zambia should thank Edgar Lungu for imprisoning me, because I wouldn't have known that there are innocent people who are actually rotting in the jail. I wouldn't even have known what our brothers and sisters in the jails are going through. I wouldn't have known how rotten our correction institution is like. Now that kind of politician.
So it was a blessing in this case?
He said it was a blessing, actually. And then he even told the people that no. So they said, therefore, all the people who imprisoned me and the rest of us, we should all forgive them and chart a new reconciliatory Zambia. Now, this is a departure from the politicians we have in Uganda. Somebody is threatening everybody, including nothing. So, if you are threatening everybody, definitely everybody is going to fight you. And remember, the people you are threatening are in positions of responsibility, have the power. But now this is Edgar, this is Hichilema. He gave hope to everybody. And this is why even Lungu lost even in his strongholds, because the man who was coming was saying, I'm coming for everyone. I'm not going to discriminate. And he told people, no one is going to discriminate you because you didn't vote for us. Whether you voted for PF, whether you voted for UPND, we are all Zambians. We are going to work together for one Zambia. So that is another lesson we also have to learn. Now, the other issue that also is not coming out, of course, you see Lungu, it was too hard for Lungu to take the defeat. You know, at times people in Africa, we don't, our DNA Africa has no defeat. So even when he was trying to resist, we should also thank the African Union Observer Mission that had the eminent Africans like Jakaya Kikwete, who actually who actually sought also the services of former presidents like Reverend Banda, like Guy Scott, and they sat down with these comrades, Hichilema and Lungu, to a peace talk. I said, look here, I mean, you two, you hold the key to the peace and prosperity of this country. So whoever has lost, whoever has whatever, at least there shouldn't be that bad blood.
Yeah, but why would it have to take a Guy Scott and a Banda? Just what about, because we talk about a Banda who is about 84 years. We talk about Guy Scott who is, I think, also 79 something years. Now these years are senior citizens in the country, and it's fortunate that this is happening at a time when they are living. What about if they weren't there? Because we're looking at them, yes, as peace brokers. We look at them as nation builders, people of the nation, to say, please, you and him are actually holding this country in your hands. If you let it fall, then it is to all our detriment. Why has it got to take Banda, who was there before, and Guy Scott, who was also there before, to be able? What about if the Guy Scotts of Zambia, the Bandas of Zambia, weren't there? Would we see mayhem? Would we be seeing pangas and all the things happening in Zambia now?
No. Because I said that we had eminent Africans like Jakaya Kikwete from Tanzania, who also had the former president of Sierra Leone.
Yes, I appreciate actually even the role of SADC itself.
Yes, actually even SADC.
I appreciate the role of SADC. I appreciate the role of the African Union.
The African Union,
but internally, I just want to look at the countries internally. I just want to look at the countries internally. That yes, even when Jakaya Kikwete comes from Tanzania to actually speak to you, you will listen to him like an African brother, but you'll imagine that he's walking back to Dar es Salaam. He's going back to Tanzania, and these will be our issues to sort for the next 5 years. The worries, like, for example, you very well know what Lungu did to Hichilema when Hichilema was not yet president. There's so many times he imprisoned him.
About 50 times.
About 50 times. It even actually had to take the late KK to intervene at times in many of their differences. Now, Mzee KK is gone. What about if Banda had gone, Guy Scott had gone? Away from the outside brothers who come in to actually say, let's put these things together. But I don't look at it as an internal issue. I asked the same question to Ndugu Gahungu here, of the incentives. You look at a man like Lungu, who is, I think, 69 years of age. I don't think he's about 67 years of age. Hichilema is only 59. Now, if he stays there for 10 years, meaning he will exit before he's 70. And in Zambia, anything can happen. There are all these hopes that Hichilema is actually going to, to become a rainmaker in Zambia. In 3-4 years, if they don't see things working out, the Zambians will actually throw him out and say, we're now having another person, we bring another person. So it is now UPND, it now may be UPF again coming back, now maybe MMD again coming back, or another party coming. In Zambia, this happens. But the internal mechanism of incentives, incentivizing for a former president, that someone can actually say, I am supposed to be here. Look at the United States, for example, where you know that you can't go beyond 8 years, even when you come in as young as Barack Obama, or even when you come in as old as Joe Biden. But you know that 8 years. But the Americans can choose to say, yes, Trump, you've come at this age of 70 plus, 4 years are enough for you. Please walk out and go. And you have to go there. They say, we bring in another person. But you'll think that because Trump has come in, he'll have to complete 8 years in office. The incentives, therefore, a former president is very important. Do we have these things? Do we think about these things? As opposed to saying, yes, Kikwete will come and speak to us, maybe some other Obasanjo will come and speak to us, Good Luck will come and speak to us, and others.
No, I think when you look at the inauguration of Hichilema Kaindi, because ideally the photos were everywhere to show the house where Lungu is now going to stay. The type
of a former footballer.
Former footballer being rented by government. Even his other incentives are coming in. Secondly, I also wish to say that at times there are so many things you look at. Because let's look at Lungu himself. He began his political career as the MP of Chawama, a township outside or within Lusaka metropolitan. And now this is the same constituency the daughter has actually taken over. Convincingly, she won convincingly. So she also realized that, yes, even much as I'm out, but at least I have one of my own who is still in the system, and really that gives somebody hope, and really no one is witch hunting the other. So all these, I think what happens is, as other countries, most countries, that politicians should stop threatening the people in power, and actually even the civil service. Give them hope, because as the Bible says that when a wicked person takes power, society cries. They suffer. And when a good person takes over power, people rejoice. You see what is happening in Afghanistan? That ideally, now everybody's saying, look here, let us go and save these people from the Taliban. You get it? So that is what it is.
Okay. Well, our producers are trying to find us. Reverend Banda, the immediate former Secretary General of UNIP, and I think we now have him here. Reverend Banda, please speak back to us, and let's know whether we can hear you or whether you can also hear us very well. Banda, good morning. Could you please maybe unmute your microphone or so on your computer? Okay. Well, we can't get your audio. I think it's a technical problem this side. Let our technical person self get to you. We can see him, but we can't hear him. Let something work out. We need to talk to Ndugu Banda, who is right now in Lusaka, Zambia. Ndugu Mtuta, the issue of incentives to me is very important. Edgar Chagalung is happy, he's fortunate that his daughter takes over the constituency. What about if he didn't have a daughter interested in politics? What about if there was no, because the issues that we see happening now in Southern Africa, are they just happening by default, or these are policy issues, these are set issues that today Hichilema knows he's president. One, for the next 5 years. If God grants him life, he's president for the next 5 years. If he again comes back into an election and he wins, he's sure he can actually be president over that country until his age of 69. That's 10 years from now. The contingency plan of away from saying before this man came to State House was a rich man, was this billionaire, he was doing all the things, he had businesses, he had these ranches and all the things, but the incentives to a former president that yes, you are now in State House, and 10 years after today, when you exit State House, this is what is for you as a president. Do they have any such thing, or it just happens to them by default?
Assuming they don't have, who do we blame? Because we have seen people struggling to win and rig elections. But maybe not much is being done in making their lives better when they finally leave power. Now, the incentives, when a person is in power, is thinking that if we give so much to a former leader, maybe we'll make him so comfortable that he'll even think of coming back into power. Now, we saw when Moi was leaving, as part of the incentive, they said, you want to have your vehicles, you have them. You will want to have your so that a lot was given to Moi to persuade him to leave power, because when I was looking at a country like Malawi, where you found that during the elections, I think Chakwera got 20, I think 39 or something. Then the next one got 35, and the other person got 20. Now, when you add the two immediate people coming after him, you get more
than the winner.
Yeah,
because 34 and 20 is 54.
Exactly.
and the president up there has only 39.
Exactly.
Yeah, so number 2 and number 3 combined together have more support than number 1.
And so that was happening in Kenya, that during the last times of Moi, you would find Ford polling up to about 40, another one about 20, 10, and Moi would get 30, and is comfortably winning. So just a little margin, and is winning, because for them it was not the 50 plus 1.
The first
but
past the post.
Yeah, it was the
first past the post.
Exactly.
Just like it was in Lawi,
yeah,
at the time of Mutharika.
So when you look at this, for how long should we be begging Africans that you have lost an election, so go home? I mean, you should have known that. For how long should we be begging that when for a former leader, he should be given something? In other words, it should be a constitutional matter. It should be something already worked on. You know, when you are in power, you are getting this. When you are out of power, as a leader, or the civil servant, because at least for civil service, it is known. When I retire, my salary will be so much. So my package will be so much. So what we need to do is to systematize things, that we don't need to beg a leader, say, okay, now that you are retiring, we are going to please be giving you this so that you can or to leke, you know. But the most important thing is that, I mean, I was also looking at the Zambians. Why should you rent a house for a retiring president?
Is that a bad thing?
Where did he come from? I mean, these are the things we need to look at.
Because 7 years ago, he was not president.
Yes. So where did he jump from into the presidency? But at the same time, and we were talking about it last time here, for a person to be nominated as a presidential candidate, you know, given the drama that we witnessed here, some people jumping off the borders, others struggling even to get, can we, much as we're talking about what one gets after leaving power, can we also look at who comes in to this power? So that some of these scenarios, because like now, for example, in Zambia, when finally the current president leaves, and for him actually he made a statement, said for him he would prefer staying in his home and doing business than going to State House. In any case, Lungu still stuck there looking for what they look for him, for where he should go. So I think it's also better to bring in someone into power, for someone who has a history, someone who is coming from somewhere. I'm not saying that only the rich people should be in politics, but as a requirement, we should also need someone who has something to stand for. Why should you be totally a problem to the people as a leader? Because even traditionally, in African situation, you will not be a leader if you don't have certain things in the home, really, to begin with. So I think, much as we talk of incentivizing someone, of helping someone to live a comfortable life after they have left State House, it is also good to think of what would be the threshold for someone to be able to come to State House. Now, for example, we have seen the life of Lungu. I think Lungu was one of the arrogant but also very exorbitant leaders. I think his lifestyle was also linked, and his type of working method was linked to his colleague, the former president of Malawi also, because they almost behaved the same way.
The former president of Malawi,
yeah.
Peter Mutharika.
Yeah, Mutharika, because you remember when Mutharika was also president, he was doing things in total disregard. You are talking about the elders who were convincing this
Banda
man, say, finally, who are bringing sense into this guy, tell him, man, you have lost. And by the mere factor that you have lost, you have to leave. I mean, he didn't know he had lost. He knew that. But at the same time, supposing we didn't, like you put, if we don't have those elders somewhere in some country, what happens? Are you going to hold the whole country at ransom because you have lost an election. And of course, the truth be told, people who voted for the current president are not people who loved him so much, but there are people who hated Lungu so much. So that the hate was transformed into the win for the new president, but not that they loved him so much. And you don't be shocked to see 2 years down the lane, the Zambians are saying, no, this is not what we expected, because they are looking at corruption in government, in the mining sector, in the education sector, and the total breakdown in the lives of the Zambians. You know, for us, Ugandans, we're a bit lucky. So certain things God has given us. We were discussing yesterday, that time I remember, said, part of the reason as to why we have, even with difficulty, but survived in the COVID situation is because we have the food. That with or without money, still you can, as people who are living up country, can have food. But Zambians are not, many Zambians are not so lucky to have everything that we have here. So part of the reason is as to why Lungu lost was that disconnect of the rich and the poor. And you know, many people in Zambia are now living in the urban settings, a lot of many compared to like Uganda. So that affluence also comes with a lot of challenges in terms of taxation, in terms of social services. So that was part of the problem. So I don't see this man coming in and making miracles that Zambia is now going to shift from the country it has been into something different. But it is his convincing win is that people still have that confidence. Maybe he can ride on that in the next 5 years if he can deliver on some of his pledges. Maybe the Zambians will maintain him for another term.
Okay, very important. Thank you so much. We just have a few minutes to get into the break. We're trying to find a better connection for Reverend Banda in Lusaka, the immediate former Secretary General of the UNIP party. To also speak to us, he's in Zambia, and his party was the first party in power in Zambia. His party lost to MMD in 1991. Bale talked about it here. I beg your pardon. Gahungu talked about it here. His president is Bale. His party president is Bale. So I'm not really off. So want to hear from him. Want to speak to him. But yet again, if you listen to the president's inaugural speech, there were lots of promises to the people of Zambia.
Exactly.
When you listen to his speech, when you listen to the speech of the chairperson of SADC, President Dr. Reverend Lazarus Chakwera, there are so many of these promises, of course, that the voters look to and really say, yes, maybe these are now the messiahs who are delivering us into the promised land. And many of these have actually spoken and promised many of these very good things. We'll just, we'll now take a break, but I want us to also listen to Hichilema's inaugural speech. We'll make comments onto that as we also find the connection for Reverend Banda in Lusaka. We'll return.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
The protection of copyright and related rights is vital to the growth of the creative industry and has cultural, economic and social implications in the transformation of the economy. This year, the African Regional Intellectual Property Organization member states will meet at Speak Resort Munyonyo to adopt the draft protocol on voluntary registration of copyright and related rights, the first ever in Africa. This will be the first protocol of copyright on our continent. Uganda will host the conference at Speak Resort Munyonyo from August 20th to 28th, 2021. Be part of this live coverage of the proceedings of the conference on the following dates. Live on your national broadcaster TV station, UBC TV. The President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, will grace the opening of this diplomatic conference on Friday, 27th August, 2021. Join the conversation using the hashtag Copyright Protocol. This conference is organized by Uganda Registration Services Bureau with support of the Government of Uganda and the following partners.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Are you feeling stressed? Have you been working too much? Maybe what you need is some R&R.
I just can't get away from technology or work. I don't know what else I can do.
OMG, you are so right. IMO, you need some R&R. You should book a room at a B&B. And if anyone texts you, tell them you'll BRB.
People don't actually talk like that.
R&R is short for rest and relaxation. But we often just say R&R. This is an example of a shortened phrase that you will see in writing and hear in everyday conversation. That is not the case for some of the other things Anna said. And that's English in a Minute.
Join us from Monday to Friday for Good Morning Uganda with me, Felix Nkunda.
Priscilla Naloda.
Robert Chirabo.
Molen Kenyana.
Ruben Mpimba. With all the morning's essentials.
Including the very latest in news, traffic,
Weather and sports.
Live on TV and across all our social media platforms. #UBCJMU.
Hope you'll be setting your alarms, cause we are looking forward to seeing you then.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
It's super cool to be a mass superhero, to get the spread of the virus to 0.
Did you know that just wearing a mask is not enough? Yes, correctly wearing a mask will protect you and others, but you still have to remember to wash your hands with clean running water and soap, or using a sanitizer, socially distance, and avoid crowded areas. Wearing a mask helps protect you and others from spreading viruses.
To get the spread of the virus to 0.
Every marriage has 100% chances of succeeding. You know why? Because God created marriage, and God never creates failure, and God never designs anything to fail. Every marriage has 100% chances of succeeding. Is your marriage struggling and you're wondering whether it will ever succeed, whether you will ever make it, whether it's even worth holding on to? You got to tune into Unlocking Marital Bliss, because right here we provide the keys to unlock the bliss in your marriage, and you will be able to succeed. We've had testimonies, and lives are changing day by day.
Marriage must be a discipline. It must not be handled like a casual thing.
As women, when we have the outward expression, even our form of respect is tied to the outward things that you do.
Some women now have working class. They don't know how to handle their husbands because the marriage has become like question and answer marriage. Do you have any tea? Don't you have hands to prepare it? Why have you come back late? Did I take your blanket? It's question and answer marriage.
Not any other place, but every Sunday, 3 p.m., right here at UBC, with the one and only Cyrus Rod, not any other.
Unlocking Marital Bliss. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
State and government, Your Excellency, the 4th President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Reverend Banda, and Mrs. Reverend Banda, and all the former presidents of respective countries that are present here today. Your Honor, the Vice President of the Republic of Zambia, Mrs. Mutale W.K. Nalumango. Your Honor, the immediate past Vice President of the Republic of Zambia, Madam Inonge Mutukwa Wina, and other former Vice Presidents that are present here. Your Lordship, the Acting Chief Justice, Honorable Justice Michael Musonda, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Justice Dr. Patrick Matvini, the Chairperson of the Electoral Commission of Zambia, Honorable Judge Isau Churu, the Secretary to the Cabinet, Dr. Simon K. Niti, Your Worship, the Mayor of the Greater City of Lusaka, MS Chilando Chitangala, and other civic leaders that are present here, newly elected members of Parliament, my lords and lordships, the judges of the Supreme Court, judges of the Constitutional Court, Court of Appeal, and indeed High Court, leaders from the United Party for National Development, UPND Alliance, leaders of political parties that are present, local and international election observers, permanent secretaries, and other senior government officials, Your Excellencies, ambassadors, high commissioners, accredited to the Republic of Zambia, Your Royal Highnesses, members of the clergy, members of the press, fellow Zambians, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Shall I say, fellow Zambians, before we proceed, I request that we take a moment of silence in honor of eminent citizens who passed on this year. And in particular, we lost our founding father and first president of the Republic of Zambia, Dr. Kenneth David Kaunda, and the first female Chief Justice, Madam Irene Mambilima. I also recognize all those that have passed on during this period. I suggest we take a pause for a minute to remember KK, Super Ken, and others. Thank you very much. May their souls rest in eternal peace. My fellow Zambians, 23 years ago, a visionary by the name of Anderson Kambela Mazoka Mwanamuwotu, together with his colleagues, founded the United Party for National Development, UPND. It was a party founded on the promise of a better Zambia. A Zambia which is united, a Zambia which is prosperous, a Zambia that guarantees basic needs for all our citizens without exception. A Zambia in which the fundamental human rights and property of citizens are protected at all times. Today, we begin our journey towards realizing this dream of that time, which has lived on to now and into the future, I believe. I stand before you today, humbled and filled with gratitude for your trust in a simple village boy who you have made the 7th President of the Republic of Zambia. Thank you so much to all of you Zambians. This victory is not mine, but for all the citizens of our great country, especially the youth who turned out to vote in great numbers with great energy. I shall repeat that. This victory is not mine, but it is for all you, the citizens of our great country, especially the youth of Zambia, who turned out to vote in great numbers, with great energy and passion, and made this day possible. Thank you to the youth of Zambia. We showed the world, the whole world, the resilience of our democracy, and we reaffirm that power belongs to the people of Zambia, not we who are elected to serve the people, but the power is deposited in the people of Zambia, not anyone else. And you decide who you want to lead. You, the people of Zambia, resoundingly spoke with your vote, and I thank you from the depth of my heart. The people decided it was time for change, and today we can boldly say change is here. The road ahead will not be without challenges, but with a clear vision and a plan, which we have, and the relentless determination, we shall overcome and deliver on the aspirations of our people, all of our people. To the jobless youth, a new dawn is here, where you will be skilled and you will find opportunity to work or do business in an economy that will be revived vigorously very soon ahead of us. Very, very soon ahead of us. To the mothers struggling with the high cost of food, a lower cost of living will soon be a reality to all your family members. To the entrepreneur seeking capital, an investor, and a better operating environment is just on the horizon. A government is here that understands your challenges and knows exactly what you need in order to thrive. Very important, extremely important. It is, to all our citizens of Zambia, truly your moment. Fellow citizens, you have entrusted the UPND and its alliance partners with the responsibility of serving you and running the affairs of this nation with your interest at heart all the time. All the time. We do not take this responsibility lightly. We will truly be your servants, and you, the people, our masters. That's our promise to you. That's our promise to you. As your president, as your servant, I will ensure that we deliver on our promises. Absolutely. Absolutely. We say Bali and the team will fix our economy, but we will do more than just fixing the economy. We will grow our economy so we can lift more people out of poverty than ever before. We will promote unity in diversity and ensure respect for fundamental human rights, liberties, and indeed freedoms for all our people. We will restore the rule of law, general order in our public places and communities, and return our country back to normalcy. Read my lips, no cadarism from any political party. There is room, there is space for all of you, but there is no space for thuggery, there is no place for violence in the new dawn.
Well, very important. Now, on that particular note where it says there's room for you and there is no room for thuggery, that was a response to one of the 4 issues that formed the election in Zambia. Now, there was an issue of regaining the trust of the financiers. There was an issue of fighting corruption. There was an issue of a curbing on executive dominancy. And there was also an issue of a political party cadres. And I think this is what President Hichilema here talks about, say there's no room for thuggery and of course like that, because the party cadres of the PF party were looked at as those rogues or thugs who practiced and did every illegality in as far as their stay in power was actually concerned. And when you listen very keenly to President Hichilema, he says the time for cadaism has also now ended. Now, remember there's also that, and you expect, because yes, he's now the president and he's in charge of the country, so he can know how to actually manage those issues. But now that does not mean that Hichilema, because he was voted into power, will not have opposition. Now the first opposition that he actually gets is the opposition of now these cadres of the PF. When you get back to the times of, I think the times of Banda, the time of Banda, you know, when Banda's restrictive political space extended so much, it actually gave a lot of popularity to the PF party, which eventually now brought Sata and Lungu to power. This can actually still happen. When you look at the ballooning date that happened to Zambia during the times of Edgar Lungu, from maybe 36% to about 110%, that was too much. But yet again, you also notice that these are not new issues to the Zambians. Chiluba came in, he tried, but he also failed on that particular one. Fighting corruption is another thing that everybody talks about in there, and I think the only person who had tried to manage that time was Levi Patrick Manawasa before he actually died. But just looking at the issues for which Zambians decided and considered that yes, our next president should be president who will handle these issues, not new issues. Inaugural, I'll start with you. I'll come back to you here. Looking at those 4 issues, gaining the trust of the financiers, fighting corruption, curbing political dominance. On several occasions, Edgar Lungu actually tried to bring constitutional reforms which botched, and he really wanted to see that the executive actually cedes much of its powers to the executive. He didn't want to have the checks of the parliament. As a president, he wanted to have more of the executive powers actually decide and do things as he wanted. Let's look at those issues and try to see whether Hichilema now is the man there up for that particular task.
Well, Hichilema comes to power with actually a lot of expectations from the people, because the Zambians felt that Lungu had actually let them down, PF had actually let them down, and I think in the history of Zambia, PF and Lungu are one of the most dictatorial regimes they've actually had. And why Hichilema is because he has built his own empire, an economic empire, and you see the slogan was "Barry will fix it." Barry is his nickname. They will fix it. So they have a lot of expectations. Now the expectations of Hichilema, the people, the expectations they have in Hichilema are the very expectations that actually people had in Malawi when Kamuzu Banda actually was voted out. Bakili Muluzu was also, like Hichilema, is a businessman and was also voted in with all those expectations. And good enough, Bakili Muluzu tried to live by those expectations until his 2 terms ended. Now, the history of Zambia is that I think Zambians, in one way or the other, have been unfortunate, that every other time they have a pragmatic leader, apart from Kaunda. But these ones, every other time they have a pragmatic leader who has whom they have a lot of hope in, who has actually shown all signs of changing their society, he dies before completing the term. This began with Manawasa. They had a lot of fun. Manawasa had really started in correcting the wrongs of Chiluba. He didn't finish his term. He died midway. Now, when King Cobra, Michael Sata, comes in, you know, he was the former mayor of Lusaka, and people knew how he works. You know, King Cobra was such a person that would even go to the villages, to the townships, and easily mix with the people, know their problems. 3 years in his term, he also passes on. So that has they've been unfortunate that every other time they have such a leader who is actually trying to deliver them to Canaan, to the promised land, then he doesn't finish his term. So when it comes to Hichilema, I think the issues are very clear. That one, even the Electoral Commission, that even the donors that who had gone away, the fact that the country would manage a very peaceful transition a very good election. That gives them confidence to come back. Secondly, his speech alone is giving confidence that these people are really also going to really come back. Now, what people wait to see is how he translates his speech into action. But of course, you know, in Africa, at times we normally get these disappointments, like what we are seeing in Malawi. Reverend Chakwera, people thought a reverend, is coming to correct things. But he's actually, so far, performing worse, where he has to go to London for Zoom meetings. So, you see, a poor country like Malawi, you have to go to London for Zoom meeting, you, your wife, and daughter. So, you see, also Chakwera is actually now already disappointing people. So, and in the history of Zambia, no party that has won a popular vote like how UPNDP has done serves one term. Actually, they serve 2 and more terms. The other history that, of course, that is also that is Zambia. The other history that we've also seen in Zambia, that once a party has lost elections, it becomes hard for it to bounce back. So if Lungu does not work hard, this will be the end of PF. Maybe another party is going to swallow them up. Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't think Lungu will want to even give it a try. He's done his, he's served his. And because idea, like before this particular election, they're actually going to court to block his nomination, saying he's actually served his 2 terms. They were considering the term that he took over from, the one where he actually took over from King Cobra. And were saying, but you served the other term and this term also. So, and to them, they were saying he's actually coming for the 3rd election, because even the other particular one was also still an election where he still faced Hichilema and just trounced over Hichilema. Coming to you, Bale, on the issues, of course, normally we tend to want to think that our elections are just about populism and maybe excitement. In Zambia, there are these issues that we're looking at and saying we need somebody who will act like, oh, this is from the analysts. Let's look at the issues that we think need to be fixed. That who over these men is up to the task. Edgar Lungu had been there and they'd actually seen him failing, saying, you came into this country, you came into leadership, and look at how our debt has ballooned to where it is. Recently, I think in 2017, there was also an issue of where the government procured 42 fire trucks and at a cost of $42 million, meaning that every fire truck actually cost $1 million. There are issues with that. Recently, during the COVID period, there were also issues of inflated procurements of COVID staff in the Ministry of Health. Now, these were all issues that were piling against Ndugu Edgar Chagwa Lungu. In 2018, there was also another procurement issue by the government where actually donors had to come and pull out the funding of there are issues of about $37 million, and you know, funders just found themselves pulling out and saying all the things. These are some of the things for which Edgar actually decided to move for constitutional reforms to have the dominance of the executive, to say even without the legislature, we can actually, as cabinet, we can just decide to say this is what we want and see it go on and on. Many of these things, what the people are looking at here and saying, okay, if we trusted this man with another time in office and he's taken us through all these things, are we sure that he will be able to fix it? Let's find a new person. When you listen to President Hichilema, he's promising heaven on earth to these people. Just like he says, he's built his empire. When people look at him from that background of a man who has actually done this and he's built this empire, he's this billionaire, they really think the biggest problem of Zambia is fixing the economy. And he's promising them. He said, this is not me, this is us. You know, every one of us will have space in this country. Do you look at him as a man who is up for the task to fix this country with all the expectations that the several million Zambians have in him?
There is a saying which says that the end justifies the means. Now, you see, whenever there is a new leadership, the citizens are always excited and the new leader always promises a lot. I think we know it from very many leaders, even those ones who have even concluded very badly. I think that this is very common in Africa, not only in Zambia or in Malawi or elsewhere. So for now, we cannot conclude that actually President Hichilema will achieve all he has promised. But what I know, if he is to deliver, what he has to do is to make sure that there are strong institutions in Zambia. You see, this President Edgar Lungu, when he was leaving power, he tried to consolidate his executive powers by bringing in constitutional reforms. Where was he heading to? He was actually heading to destroying the existing institutions which had been created by the previous presidents. Therefore, for me, what I see in this president, he would really talk more of strengthening the institutions that are existing in Zambia. But thinking that you will fix employment, you will fix corruption, you will fix everything before you fix strong institutions, I think that is the divergence. Therefore, this excitement, the promising, talking the good things, even the best leaders in Africa have started with that. If, for example, we go back to what happened in the Republic of South Africa, when Mandela became the president, he became a president for a term of 4 years. And afterwards, he stepped down. He couldn't continue, even when he knew that when he stood, he would win. What does that one imply? It implies that he had strengthened the institution of governance, the executive, and all others anyway. So there is nothing good in a personality. We are all the same. Actually, President Museveni said it one time in Addis Ababa that we are either similar or linked. So we are all the same. Mr. Jagenda, Mr. Mazima, and me. But when there is a strong institution, which is not easy to shake, certainly you have a country, you have a nation. But also there is something I have seen which has always been a problem in Africa, institutionalizing peace building. I think peace building, either it's not understood, because once you don't institutionalize peace building, then it is you are removing something that actually builds a state, builds a democracy. It's a fabric, which is usually missing. That's why, for example, when we talk about elders who can help a leader to accept defeat or to stay on, we lack that. So what do we need? We need strong institutions. We need to institutionalize peace building. We need to make sure that a leader, because once you are in leadership, you are corrupted by the power. It's common. Even him, for now, I cannot conclude. And those ones who have died, they have just died before maybe they have been known. That's why I'm saying that the end justifies the means. Therefore, for me, what's happening in Zambia, I credit it to the predecessors, those ones who created strong institutions. Because without strong institutions, you don't have a state. And the more, of course, the leader stays in power, unless you have a very strong leader, power is likely to be consolidated and personalized even in some cases. You are now at the mercy of the leader. For now, for me, what is happening in Zambia, I'm simply watching. I want to see what happens after end of his term, then after 10 years. Otherwise, many leaders in Africa have promised heaven on earth, and then we have ended up with very little. So for now, let him concentrate on building institutions, strong institutions. Actually, like Electoral Commission, we all hail the Electoral Commission of Zambia. They came out, they were able to announce the leader. Because if he had the chance to shake the institutions, I think Edgar Lungu would be. He tried actually to resist.
He tried several times.
Yes, he tried. He tried to put the army on the ground. He tried to in procurement, like the Zambian central market. He tried to sell it by through corruption. He failed. Even the airport, the mines and everything, he wanted the money by himself. Maybe
build a house.
Yes. Actually, the other thing you people were talking about, they talked about incentivizing a president. I think the main thing that can make a president, the main incentive should be the strong institutions, security, then the dignity of the president. Those are the key issues actually that can make a president give out power.
Okay. But those are the things you work on yourself.
I think that's not, because Edgar Lungu was, his net worth, they say is 2 million. $2 million US dollars. That's a lot.
His net worth.
His net worth. But still he's clinging to. I think the most important thing we have to work on are institutions, institutions, the security and the dignity of the previous.
Thank you, Ndugu Gahungo. But you see, we now, because it's an African issue, it's an African, it's an African scenario, it's an African situation that we want to push and say. It's unfortunate when we talk about the other democracies, when you look at what is happening in Germany and you talk about the politics of Germany or these other countries in Europe, when you talk about the United States, that yes, Barack Obama can be president for 8 years, then he hands over power to Donald Trump, then Donald Trump comes. So Donald Trump actually was trying to disrupt their already set system, but you expect that even after Joe Biden, there will be some other person who will come, either from the DP or from the Republican Party, who shall actually have the mantle to carry on and continue. But we talk about very advanced and grown democracies as opposed to our own here. But let's get back to our situations here. Ndugu Mututa here. One of the issues, for example, when President Dr. Lazarus Chakwera came in, one of the things he talked about very vehemently in his inaugural speech, a very powerful speech, was fighting corruption. And you know, when you talk about fighting corruption, then you tend to look at the previous government, you tend to look at the government that you've just answered. Now, it's one thing that Banda and Guy Scott and former President Jakaya Mrisho and several others managed to sit, managed to sit with the two principals, telling them it was you, it is now him, you know, the two of you. And I'm even thinking, and I'm sure that Hichilema can actually pick his phone and call Edgar Lungu wherever he is. Edgar can also call. Now, that's another thing. But then, when you say you are going to fight corruption, of the corruption that you know has been perpetrated by the previous government, and you're coming in, what are the chances that you're going to unravel these things and not find a Lazarus, you don't find a Lungu in there? For example, you have a problem with the Kadaism that PF had actually built. Now, you and Lungu are possibly talking as elders. How about the Mututas here of PF? How about the calls here of the PND, the UPND, coming in, and quite a number of things. You just talked about the corruption. When you look at the procurement processes in Zambia, that's where corruption has actually been. How do we think that this man, President Hichilema now, will be able to fight corruption in this country and not really step on the toes of his predecessor, Edgar Chagwa Lungu? Mututa.
It's going to be difficult for that, and you know, you may be also aware that when President Lungu was trying to consolidate his power, many things happened, and he is likely to be found wanting in those areas, especially when it comes to corruption, because he wanted to have this power to be able to work independent of parliament and independent of other government institutions. So that could be a problem. And some of these deals were negotiated directly within the presidency. So it is likely that he could be involved, but the only remedy that could be there is that one will say maybe it was the civil servants who are responsible for these deals, and as a president he only gave guidance, but he didn't tell them they didn't know the details. That can be reasoned that way, because the president can say, look, you look in this thing and you see if it is worth doing, but it is now the civil servants who sit down to work out the details, and they can mislead or they can give the president the right information. But that also has to do with the whole setup, cabinet. What was the cabinet position on some of those things? I'm sure that much as Lungu wanted to consolidate his power, some of members of his cabinet were not with him on that, because a number of them had
actually even Parliament itself, he had
yes,
the majority. PF had the majority in Parliament, but of course they also didn't support him on many of those reforms.
Exactly. So it is likely that also they could also use the positions of cabinet, what they agree on the sale of the airport, what they agree on the procurement of...
just hold it there. I'm now told that Banda can talk back to us. Reverend Banda in Zambia.
Hello, good morning.
A very good morning. Thank God you're finally with us. Thank you so much for endeavoring and coming to us. I am sure you've been following the conversation here.
I have been following the conversation. I'm delighted to join the meeting. I had challenges with modern technology. I couldn't, I was following deliberations, but I couldn't hear anything until a few minutes ago when the technician has ably assisted me.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the show now, and let's now interact with you, talk to you about the issues in South Africa, and congratulations that you as a country, Zambia, went through an election. You now have a newly sworn-in president who is taking charge of the country. Speak to us about what is happening in Zambia to start with, and know what the Zambians are doing. What is actually currently now happening that you have President Hakainde Hichilema in State House as president of Zambia?
I'm so delighted that you have invited me to participate on this wonderful discussion. First and foremost, we had a peaceful transition, and I would like to hasten to thank the outgoing president, President Edgar Chagwa-Lungu, who was magnanimous enough to surrender the instruments of power to the now President, His Excellency Hakainde Hichilema. It was a very, very peaceful transition, and the country is so excited with the new development, and also especially the fact that in his first speech, President Hakainde Hichilema was also magnanimous enough to touch on the shared values of unity, love, and not to delve into the issues of, settling scores. So I think he has set a very good tone.
Okay, the most pressing needs of Zambians currently is tackling the economic problem. We saw that during the time of President Edgar Chagwa-Lungu, your date ballooned from about 30 to 110%. There have been issues of corruption. They've also been issues of trying to curb. There was an issue of trying to curb executive dominance during his time. And of course, the other issue that they also looked at was the issue of cadres, especially the PF cadres, who were behaving with all the impunity. But on the issue of economics itself, what do you think is in store for you as Zambians during this time of President Hakainde Hichilema?
Yeah, President Hakainde Hichilema has a mammoth task. The expectations of the people are quite high, especially with regards to issues to do with bread and butter. The younger people and the older people voted for him largely on the premise that he would deliver to their expectations with regards to the issues of bread and butter. This election was about small issues, like issues of, people meeting their daily needs. It was also about issues of youth unemployment. And Hakainde Hichilema, in his manifesto, had promised to meet these needs once he's elected into power. So the expectations of the people is quite high with regards to seeing his administration fulfilling these needs. On the other hand, President Edgar Chagwa-Lungu is leaving office with a very impressive record with regards to infrastructure development.
Sure.
We have seen unprecedented, development in terms of road networks, in terms of schools, in terms of hospitals, in terms of clinics, all over the country. The development which the administration of the outgoing president did was quite impressive. However, on the other hand, they didn't pay much attention with regards to the issues of bread and butter. I think in a large sense, the debt which the country has accumulated has gone towards the improvement of infrastructure. However, there was a mismatch between the impressive development record and also the record which was very poor in terms of meeting the daily needs of the citizenry. On the other hand, I think the outgoing administration didn't pay due attention to the issue of the phenomenon of cadres. I think in a large sense, the people of Zambia have voted out this administration because of the way the cadres were behaving. The cadres had taken over even key institutions of governance, like the police had no authority. That's the reason why during the elections, the president had to make a very, very critical decision to allow the army to step in, because the cadres had much authority. I think the president, the outgoing president and administration, realized too late that the citizenry were not happy with this situation which was obtaining, where cadres had more powers than state institutions like the Zambia police.
Reverend Banda, I think that's very important. And on that particular note, we tend to agree. Some of us have been looking at the politics in your countries. Yes, I do accept that one of the things that cost Edgar Chagwa Lungu the presidency was the issue of the cadres. Now, was it on the part
Absolutely true.
Was it on the part of the PF party as a failure for the PF party, or it was a failure of the leader of Chagwa Lungu himself?
I think it was the failure by the entire leadership to discern that the cadres were not adding value, to their prospects of being in power. At times, as leaders, we get blinded. I think these cadres were so arrogant. They didn't respect any state institutions, and also they were becoming very wealthy, and they were careless enough even to display, their gained wealthy on social media when the actual voters were wallowing in poverty. I think this angered the citizenry. In a nutshell, I think the elections which took place recently were kind of a protest vote. Largely because of the behavior of these cadres. Because we saw that even in State House, where the president was residing, the people there voted for the opposition. Even in police camps, we saw the police and their families voting for the opposition. I think it was a protest vote. It was like the police were speaking through the vote that enough was enough. They were tired of the situation and they wanted to see a change. I only hope and pray that the new administration will be quick enough to discard the issue of cadres, because if they will repeat the same, I think the citizenry will definitely do to them as they have done to the Patriotic Front. We were a little bit worried Even before swearing in, we saw UPN cadres, UPND cadres also trying to do exactly what the PF cadres were trying to do. They were taking over institutions like markets, bus stops, and other key institutions, which were revenue-generating ventures for the local authorities. Immediately after President Hichilema was declared winner by the Electoral Commission of Zambia, we saw larger groups of cadres taking over these institutions. But I'm glad to see political will, which was displayed by the incoming president, by the President Hichilema, who spoke in no uncertain terms that he would not, condone the issue of cadreism, and who also went further to instruct the Zambia police to deal in no uncertain terms with anyone masquerading as a political cadre, whether of the UPND or any other political party. I think if this political will, which the incoming President Hakainde Hichilema, will be sustained, that would be great for this country. Otherwise, the PF have lost the elections largely because of the issue of cadres, and also they paid little attention to the issues of bread and butter. Right now, the expectations of the citizenry is quite high because UPND promised a lot. They promised free education from primary to university levels. They also promised, employment to the youths who voted in large numbers. They also promised to deal with the issues of bread and butter. And they also promised the farmers that they will provide affordable inputs in a timely manner. So the expectation of the citizenry is quite high, and it's my prayer that they will not go back on their promise, but they'll be magnanimous enough to fulfill their promise. We've already seen members of the opposition already beginning to offer checks and balances by reminding the incoming government that they have to make good of their promises.
How is the legislature structured this particular time round? Looking at the numbers in parliament, for the PF party, the UPND party, and the other parties, how is parliament structured now? And you look at it, do you look at the legislature as that vanguard body that will be able to keep checking President Hakainde Hichilema's administration?
Yes, the parliament looks good because the Patriotic Front, and notwithstanding the fact that they lost the presidents, they gained quite a good number of seats. And also we have also a good number of seats which were grabbed by independents. And we have one seat, I think, Nalolo seat, which was won by PNU. That's a new political party which has just emerged on the scene. So in terms of checks and balances, I think there'll be effective checks and balances in parliament. We only hope and pray that the members of parliament who are now on the other side, who are now in the opposition, that is PF, Patriotic Front members of parliament, will not be tempted to cross the floor by trying to join, to defect to the ruling party. I think that would be sad for this country. But if the Patriotic Front members of parliament will be firm enough, will resist the temptation of being bought or crossing over to the ruling party, then I see a very good parliament which will a balanced parliament. I see checks and balances being offered in parliament by the opposition, which is the Patriotic Front and members of the independent. It's also my prayer that the independent members of parliament will also resist the temptation of being bought by the ruling party, because we've seen this in the past. where ruling parties, buy off independent members of parliament and also members of parliament from the opposition.
Reverend Banda, are you insinuating that the UPND party is starting to court the PF members of parliament? Did you look at that as happening, that you can see an exodus of PF members crossing to a UPND party?
I don't have empirical evidence to that effect, and I cannot, confidently say that the UPND has already begun to do this. But we've seen this happening in the past, and we just hope and pray that the UPND will not fall into that trap, because we saw it happening in the time of Levi Mwanawasa, we saw it happening in the time of Reverend Banda, we saw it happening in the time of Chiluba. We also saw it happening in the time of Michael Sata. We just hope and pray that
it doesn't happen with Hichilema.
Not go that route.
On fighting corruption, in 2017, there was a procurement of 42 fire trucks at a cost of $1 million per truck. We've also had, during the administration of Chagwa Lungu, the corruption in the procurement irregularities of the COVID staff. We also saw in 2018 when the donors actually halted much of their funding because of a number of these issues. And now we talk about fixing the economy. Yes, all of us accept that there is unprecedented infrastructure development that Edgar Lungu leaves behind. But of course, that development was not in tandem with the social welfare of the person. Like you say, the bread and butter is what was lacking. And the people, yes, they want the roads, they want all the things, but without the food, they can never love you, do anything to you. Looking at the corruption bit of itself, and with the different corruption records now, this is what we all grapple with as African countries. What do you think is the political will of President Hakainde Hichilema in as far as fighting corruption is concerned? Because it is a problem that all of us as African countries are grappling with.
I think at the beginning point for His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema is to restore back power to the institutions that deal with these vices. The Anti-Corruption Commission, DEC, DEC, the Drug Enforcement Commission, and the Zambia Police. We saw in the past that these institutions were carrying out their responsibilities in a selective manner. And we were also seeing members of the governing party who were found wanting, being shielded. We only hope and pray that with the political will which President Hakainde Hichilema has shown to allow the institutions of the governance regain back their power or their authority, I think we'll see a reduction in these vices by people who are tasked with the responsibility to save the masses, by people who are serving in public offices. I think also physical discipline is very key. We've seen in the past the want of physical discipline with regards to people who were given the responsibility to govern our nation. We saw a physical discipline during the administration of President Levi Mwanawasa and His Excellency, the late Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, when he was ruling. There was physical discipline. We just hope and pray that President Hakainde Hichilema will bring to the table these issues of physical discipline and also giving autonomy to these institutions, the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Drug Enforcement Commission, and the Zambia Police to discharge their duties or their functions without any inhibition, without any political interference. Then I think we'll be on a very good trajectory. We've already seen people who were in the previous administration being pursued now by these institutions. We have seen the former Minister of Health, Dr. Chitaluchi Samba, who is under investigations now. We have seen Mr. Findlay, who was a very close associate of the former President Edgar Lungu, having his accounts frozen. We have also seen one of the influential political cadres, I think it's Maxwell Chungu, who had a fleet of vehicles which were seized a few days ago by the Anti-Corruption Commission. And we have also heard of stories of quite a large number of fuel tankers which were abandoned outside Levi Mwanawasa horse stadium by unknown people. I think this is sending good signals with regards to people respecting public resources. And we just hope and pray that President Hakainde and his administration will continue on this trajectory of empowering, of giving autonomy to these institutions which are taxed with these responsibilities.
I want to thank you so much, Reverend Banda, but just before I let you go, or before you say your final comments, because we have about 5 minutes to get out of studios, there is a view here from Zambia, a comment from Zambia. Somebody says the Patriotic Front government borrowed to develop the infrastructure all over the country, such as hospitals and schools, roads, etc., etc. The effects of the COVID-19 affected the PF's popularity, and that's what cost their election. This is a view from Zambia on a +260 number. He says, yes, they were on a good infrastructural trajectory, but COVID could have disrupted them and caused many of these issues. Just respond to this person from Zambia and make a final submission before we get out of studios.
Yes, we cannot take away from the Patriotic Front with regards to the unprecedented infrastructure development which took place under the administration, though there is contention that this was done at the expense of the economy, and others also contend that this was done at a great cost because it was done using borrowed funds. But I think this is a welcome development, because this is the primary development which will enhance any economic activities, because for the farmer out there to take his produce to the market, you need a good road. And I think it was a positive development for the Patriotic Front. It's just a pity that they didn't pay due attention to youth unemployment and also the issues of bread and butter. This is the reason why the younger people and the people who are affected, with the day-to-day hardships in terms of putting food on the table, had to vote the other way, had to vote for the opposition, notwithstanding the fact that the Patriotic Front had a good record. Yes, COVID-19 is one of the many issues that has impacted negatively on the administration of the Patriotic Front because key sectors were affected. And the economy was also affected by COVID-19. Maybe it was unfortunate for the Patriotic Front that their unprecedented development of infrastructure development was overshadowed by the issue of COVID-19. So the issues of COVID-19 have also impacted negatively on the economy, and also I think so.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you so much, Reverend Banda. The person who sent that view from Zambia is actually called Silwimba Wamusulwa. He's from Chipata in Zambia. His name is Silimbwa Wamusulwa from Chipata in Zambia. And he also thanks you so much.
No, thank you so much, Mr. Silwimba. I appreciate his view.
Okay. Well, we thank you so much. We didn't have enough time with you. You had technical issues and technical problems, but we'll find time next time again and speak back to you. But we want to thank you so much for having allowed us your few minutes to actually give us your views and what Zambia looks like from your own perspective there as former Secretary General of the UNIP Party. Asante, and thank you very much.
I'm so delighted and thank you for hosting me. I look forward to being your host next time.
Very good and very welcome. Finally, to you gentlemen in studios, you heard from Ndugu Reverend Banda from Zambia, and of course another person from Zambia. But there's just one thing here, which I would love all of you to actually respond to in 1 minute, and we get out of here. And this person says, "Good morning, Jag, and I want to say that you guys are doing a very good job as Pan-Africans. But yet again, we should try to remove foreign influence in our politics. Secondary, the high school should bring back the paper of history of Africa. That's paper 6, which I shall instill the love of Africanism." This person is actually suggesting that paper should come back. True. We are now studying ICT and what do they call it? People now study study geography, literature, and I think computer. I don't know. I'm losing track of that. But somebody here says, there is one that I wanted all of you to respond to. He's Edward here. He says, "Why are you guys discussing corruption that has become a song in almost all African countries, most especially in your own country? Do you think that what you're discussing across borders, why are you blindfolded?" He says so. "Focus on what is happening in Uganda and don't relate to Zambia." This is what Edward says, because Zambians have showed us that they are still backward and Uganda is the most dictatorship. I don't know whether you make any sense of Edward here. Finally, we have, I think, 1 minute. Let's hear the 1 minute. Ndugu Mtuta.
Yeah, but if we are talking about corruption, we are not talking, we are not saying that Ugandans are saints. But these are the issues that encompass.
And I think Edward has missed a point. He doesn't know that we are talking about Pan-Africanism.
Yes, we are talking about.
And when we talk about Pan-Africanism, we don't say Uganda is on its own island.
Exactly.
And everything in Uganda is actually milk and honey.
Yeah. But we are talking about issues that affect the lives of the people, of all people of Africa. Now, corruption in one country, in one area.
And I think if Edward was also given a job in government, he would actually, I think, be the same, like all the other persons that he's accusing of corruption.
Yeah, like we said,
he wouldn't be any better.
Unless the mechanisms are addressed, then you end up being part of the system. So, but the most important thing is that we thank him for his contribution, and for coming up to contribute, because then as Africans we need to listen and also look at what others are saying. But I'm also grateful to Nani for his Reverend for his time, and has given us the insight of what is happening in Zambia, some of which maybe we didn't have, and I thank also our viewers who are following us on other networks, and appreciate their time.
Okay, Bale, I beg your pardon, Gahungu. Yes. In just less than a minute.
If you can say what Reverend Banda has said, he's praying that the President Hichilema restores institutional strengths. I think that is
which you actually talked about.
Yes, because any nation develops around strong institutions.
Sure.
Of course, we see America, we see UK, everywhere there are strong institutions. Secondly, we want to talk about patriotism. That's why that one is talking about Africa nationalism, paper 6. We need patriotism. The thing of patriotism has been adulterated. When you talk about patriotism, people think otherwise. But unless we love Africa, we love our nations, we can never have nations. Then lastly, it is peace building. You know, the greatest challenge we have in Africa are conflicts, some of them which have turned out to be very violent. If we can institutionalize peace building, we shall have democracy, we shall have non-violence, we shall have participatory democracy, and respect for diversity. We are very many, therefore we must respect each other. But the moment we lack patriotism, we lack strong institutions, we lack peace building, we are finished as a nations and as a continent.
Akol, finally.
Yes, finally I say that Mzee Kenneth Kaunda now is a happy man wherever he is, because 10 years back, that is in 2011, he supported Hichilema when actually Hichilema was competing with the likes of Cobra and then Reverend Banda. Yeah, he supported it and said, look here, I see this young man yes, as the new crop of the leaders we want for Zambia.
And as he dies,
and as he dies, the man comes. But also, even I also see a split in the Kaunda family.
Okay.
Because Tilienji Kaunda, who's actually the political heir of Kaunda, was supporting Lungu. Yeah, so that is it. And finally, I thank the people of Zambia for having lived in the footsteps of Mzee Kenneth Kaunda, who used to tell them, Tiende pamoza ndi mtima umo. Let us work together with one heart.
Okay, well, thank you so much, gentlemen. We just want to stop this here because very shortly we're now again connected to Parliament, where there are issues happening, and I think it's the Right Honourable Jacob Lokoli Olanya in the seat there as Speaker. And but just finally, before we get off air, we also just want to remind you that next week we will have people here from Ethiopia. We now want to get back to the Horn of Africa and talk about the situation in Ethiopia, what is happening in Ethiopia, and we promise that we will have people in studios here and even possibly those from Ethiopia who will also talk to us about the issue in Ethiopia, because it has been escalated, and we think the battle, the Tigray battle in Ethiopia is actually being lost to the media. The media should I think is trying to make things not work well for African brothers. To Ndugu Edward, yes, the rest will talk about Uganda, we'll talk about Africa. We'll talk about Africa, and when we want to talk about Uganda, we'll still talk about Uganda. Don't coerce us into talking about Uganda every day when every other person is talking about Uganda. This is called the Pan-African Friday. My name is Jagenda Semakola Ziksoka, wishing all the best for God and my country. Stay blessed, good morning, and a very blessed weekend. Bye-bye for now.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy.
The strides made in our field